The Nevada Board of Wildlife Commissioners to order at 9:30 a.m. on Friday, August 11th, 2017. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Vice Chairman Johnston.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Suzanne, would you call the roll of the commission, please?
Chairman Wallace.
Here.
Vice Chairman Johnston.
Here.
Commissioner Albert.
Here.
Commissioner Barnes.
Here.
Commissioner East.
Here.
Commissioner Hubbs.
Here.
Commissioner McGinch.
Here.
Commissioner Valentine.
Here.
And Commissioner Young.
And I have not heard from Commissioner Young, so if anyone else has, let us know, but I haven't heard anything. And also, I kind of missed it there. I meant to introduce Miss East, our newest member of the commission, and welcome her to the commission.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
Would the County Advisory Board members stand and announce themselves, please?
Josh Foster, Douglas County Cap. Mike Currency, Douglas Cap. Jason Clark. Bob Rittenhouse, Douglas Cap. Steve Robinson, Marshall.
Billy Williams, Mineral County.
Jake Green, Carson County.
Nancy Fishers, White Heights.
Berger, Oakland. Oak Creek, Virgin.
Welcome. Thank you for coming. Move to agenda item number 2, election of officers. Chairman Wallace for possible action. In accordance with Commission Policy Number 1, the Commission will elect a chairman and a vice chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I nominate Grant Wallace for a second year as chairman of the Wildlife Commission.
Second.
Any further nominations? Seeing no further nominations, I will accept your nomination for chairman.
Thank you.
And, thank you, Grant. Thank you guys for the confidence, and this is a great commission, and it's been an honor to work with all of you. And so it is an action item. We'll take it out for public comment. Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission for a vote. All in favor of the nomination, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes 7-0, and I abstain on that vote. Do I have any nominations for vice chairman?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Vice Chairman Brett Johnston to continue as Vice Chairman.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner McGinch for a nomination on Vice Chairman Johnston to continue. Are any further nominations from the commission? Seeing none, I'll take it out to public comment on the nomination for vice chairman. And seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I abstain.
Motion passes unanimously, 7-0, with Vice Chairman Johnston abstaining. Brad. Thanks, Brad.
Thank you all. I thank you.
All right, we'll move to agenda item number 3, approval of the agenda for possible action. The commission will review the agenda and may take action to approve the agenda. The commission may remove items from the agenda, continue items for consideration, or take items out of order. Has everyone had a chance to review the agenda? Questions or comments on the agenda from the commission? Seeing none, this is an action item. Is there any public comment on the approval of the agenda? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission for a motion or discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move to approve the agenda, I guess, as amended, the latest version as presented.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Vice Chairman Johnston and a second by Commissioner Valentine to approve the agenda as presented, with the latest version being amended on 8/7/17. Questions from the commission on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously, 8-0. Moving to agenda item number 4, member items, announcements, and correspondence. Chairman, informational. Commissioners may present emergent items. No action may be taken by the commission. Any item requiring commission action may be scheduled on a future commission agenda. The commission will review and may discuss correspondence sent or received by the commission since the last regular meeting and may provide copies for the exhibit file. Commissioners may provide hard copies of their correspondence for the written record. Correspondence sent or received by Secretary Wasley may also be discussed. Member items?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Valentine.
At the recent Clark Cab meeting, I had a request from a member of the public for an update on status from the department on Senate Bill 364 regarding trapping, and she was curious as to find out, to determine exactly what the department's plans are in the process of enforcing that legislation.
Thank you, Commissioner Valentine. Further commission items? Vice Chairman Johnston.
I just want to, I think I was just copied on a group email, and then I received some follow-up correspondence, and I believe it was in connection with not one of the policies on today's agenda, but one of the policies that the Administrative Procedure Regulation Policy Committee is working through. The existing policy, I think, mentions or has to do specifically with gray wolves, and it's my understanding that the committee is doing some work to update that policy, broaden it, put it in line with federal law and some other considerations. And the correspondence I received was that the commission and or the department going down a path of wanting to reintroduce or introduce wolves to Nevada. And I responded to that. I was certainly not aware of that, and it would be news to me. And I did communicate back to one of the individuals who sent me a text message that after I got some information from the department, that it was just updating the policies and we'd be going through the public process. But the rumors that there was some plan to introduce gray wolves was just that, and a misinterpretation of the work that was being done on that policy. So I just wanted to put that on the record that I did have those communications.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnston. I too received communications on that, and the policy committee met last night, and there'll be an update on that later today. Commissioner Hubbs.
Yes, I had a lot of correspondence, and it may be redundant to some of the information that was passed to all the commissioners, so I just was going to go over an in-office visit that I had with Mr. Patrick Donnelly with the Center for Biodiversity. He came by, he did speak about, he was interested in Policy 27, and then also the information we're going to discuss at the end of the meeting today regarding reptiles in Nevada. And the Center of Biodiversity stance on some of those issues. And then I got a slew of different correspondence regarding some information about Policy 27 again, concerned that it may be a violation of federal preemption law. Some of those issues came up, and I think we're going to address that today when we talk about the committee meeting. And then a lot of communication through the public in regard to regulation of reptiles overall, and totaling about 11 or 12 emails. So I'm not sure if that's the capacity in which everyone was receiving emails regarding reptiles, or if that's something specific to my position for the general public. And if I need to talk about who contacted me, I wrote them all down today.
Thank you, Commissioner Hubbs. I too received multiple emails on the reptile, and we can discuss those when that agenda item comes up, no problem. Further commission items? Seeing none, Director Wasley.
Thank you, Chairman Wallace. I did receive an email from the Lincoln County Advisory Board indicating they would not be present at this meeting, expressed their apologies, and expressed a desire also to be able to participate in some of the landowner tag conversations. They have some of the unique challenges down in Lincoln County, and I thought their perspective would be valuable in that effort. Also suggested that perhaps the commission or CABS look at some considerations regarding formulation of shed antler seasons or structure, and then also once again brought up some of the challenges around trail cameras. I don't believe they offered a specific direction there, just acknowledged the challenges with trail cameras and some of their observations, and I wanted to share that correspondence with the commission. That's all I have. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Director Rosley. Further commission member items? Seeing none, we'll move to agenda item number 5, County Advisory Boards to Manage Wildlife member items, informational. CAB members may present emergent items. Action may be taken by the commission. Any item requiring commission action will be scheduled on a future commission agenda. Coming up, Paul. I think you have to go over to the other one. Do those work too? And there's a little button for everyone in the room. There's a little button to the, just touch it with your finger. There you go.
Red light comes on.
And also one thing I forgot to mention is the sign-in sheet is outside the door, as well as the comment cards.
For the record, Paul Dixon, Clark Cab. I had a gentleman in Clark County come to me about a month ago after our last meeting and brought forward a proposal to have the Commission and Department of Wildlife look at muzzleloader handguns, which aren't specifically addressed in the current NAC for use in hunting. And I've been in correspondence with Tyler Turnipseed and with the Director's Office on this. And just want to let you know that it's part of my backup. I'm sure you guys can look at what it is, but it was something that was brought forward to this group. Since it is something that is, it's a small change, but it's something that is not addressed in the current regulations, specifically in the NAC, muzzleloader handguns. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon.
For the record, Giliana, Carson Advisory Board. At our recent meeting this past Monday, we were lucky enough to have some representatives from the department come and talk to us about Hobart, being able to fish up at Hobart. There's fish in Hobart, but there's difficulty getting to Hobart. The road has been sort of washed out from the rains that we had earlier in the year. There have been some groups that the department was able to take up, the road that goes from the road at the northwest end of Lakeview, but that's a locked gate, and the public doesn't have access to get up to that road. They can walk it, but it's a good 5 or 6 mile hike up that road to get to Hobart. And some people were asking if it was possible to open that gate periodically or at some set times, or make it accessible for the public, because we've got a great fishing location, but nobody can get up to it except, by hiking and carrying your poles and your waders and your float tubes or whatever, which makes it very, very difficult, and it's not going to be able to be used. So we're just asking if there was some schedule that maybe we can arrange with the department to have that gate open, and the public can ride up that way and use it for the day and then come back out, and then the department can lock the gate. I mean, if you look at that lock spindle, there's about 15 different locks on it, so there's some people who own private property up there who have access. I'm sure the department has keys, the Forest Service has keys, the Carson City Public Works has keys, because they have to get up to the water tank and to that pumping station that's up there that, takes the water from Marlette and pumps it over to Virginia City. So there's a lot of people that go up and down that road, and it's a well-maintained road. And I know a lot of the public would like to be able to use it to get up to Hobart while there's still fishing time left in the season. and it's only a request. I don't know if the department can do anything or schedule certain days that it might be open for the public, but we sure would like to make a request that somebody consider it, because right now, that's the only way to access it, realistically. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yannick. Further cab items?
Mitch McVickers, White Pine Cab. We had similar issues as Lincoln County. We talked about the shed hunting issues we had last year, trail camera issues, and the landowner tag issues. We didn't comment on this meeting, but we do feel like that should be looked at, and until there was further discussion, we'd wait till then. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McVickers. Further cab comments, items? There you go.
Sorry. Eric Bobbitt, Lyon County Cab. I'm here to discuss with the commission about the Lions Club, Arrington Lions Club free fish derby for boys and girls from 3 to 11 years old. NDOW helps the Lions Club with the free fishing derby. The fishing derby has to do with the 3 ponds directly adjacent to the fish hatchery in Mesa Valley, and nobody can fish in those fishing ponds only the day of the fishing derby, if that makes sense. What the situation is the fishing derby usually starts about 8:30 in the morning for the boys and girls. However, adults can go fish there according to the Nevada regs as soon as the sun comes up, just like any other place. Okay. The bottom line is in the past there's been about 120 kids fishing there, and they would catch anywhere from 30 to 40 fish. This last May, they have it in May. It's always the first Saturday in May, and this year there's 90 kids there, and there was a total of 6 fish caught by the kids. There were adult anglers there, which adult anglers at this time can totally fish there as soon as the regs say they can fish. What's happening is the adults are going in at 7 a.m., 6:45 or whatever, and catching these nice trout. And the limit is 3, and typically they average anywhere from 4 to 5 pounds. The biggest trout ever caught was a 10.5 pounder. I believe that was by a child. Basically, what the Lyon County Cab is asking the commission to do is look at possibly regulating that, if we can, or just think outside the box and try to see if we can reconfigure the situation. I talked to John Shelberg, and I talked to him for about 15-20 minutes, and he did say that he was under the impression that there definitely was a problem and needed to be fixed. And our CAB voted 4-0 to come to you, to the state commission, and ask for help with this, because the concern is that eventually, maybe not this year, or I'm sorry, maybe not next year, but the year after, they won't have that anymore. They won't have, the Lions Club won't put that on. And they go to a great effort to make sure the kids understand how to fish and stuff like that. They're given a raffle ticket, and boy or girl from age 3 to 11 receives actually a tackle box, small tackle box, and then they also have a contest where for each age group, the first fish caught, the biggest fish caught for boy and girl and stuff like that. So they really go out of their way. And what's happening is the adults are going in, and these are adults not with 3 to 11-year-old boys or girls by their side they're fishing with. They're fishing by themselves. And they're going in, they're catching these fish, and it's murking up the water. So therefore, they're losing the bite. And so anyways, the Lyon County Cab, again, voted 4-0 to come in front of the, and talk to the commission about possibly help with the free fishing. One thing that I'd like to point out that, 30 or 40 years from now, when we're not sitting in those seats, or I'm not standing up here, they're the ones that are going to be sitting in those seats. And I just would hate to see these kids starting out, quote unquote, maybe cheated because the greed of an adult being able to fish this one day in those ponds. And those ponds are, there's no doubt about it, they're hot ponds. I'm a fisherman too, and I wish I could go there every day. But we're just asking for some help and maybe possibly some direction. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Further cab comments or items? Seeing none, we'll close agenda item number 5, and move to agenda item number 6, approval of the minutes. Chairman for possible action. Commission minutes from the June 23rd and 24th, 2017 meeting may be approved. Has the commission had a chance to review the minutes? Comments or corrections to the minutes? Commissioner Barnes.
Just one comment. I believe it's on page 15, you got paragraph 4. It says Mr. Barnes. And everywhere else I'm referred to as Commissioner. I just want to make sure that wasn't, they weren't referring to me because I didn't make that statement. Sounds good, but it wasn't me. So I just want to make sure that line is not referring to me, myself.
Do any of the other commissioners recall that, who that may have been?
What
page, Tom? Okay.
I believe it was Jason that said that.
Jason?
I believe so. Not positive.
Oh, okay. That would make sense.
Joe Barnes? Oh, Joe Barnes. Joe Barnes.
Further commission comments or questions on the minutes? Seeing none, this is an action item. We'll take it out for public comment. Public comment on the minutes from the June 2017 meeting. Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission for further discussion or a motion. I don't know at this point, do we want to let them review the audio and see if they can figure out, or because I'm with Commissioner Barnes. If it wasn't him, we can.
Mr. Chairman, we have an employee in the southern region who works with reptiles, who has the same last name. I think that's the confusion.
Okay. Okay. Motion from the commission?
Mr. Chairman, I'd move to approve the minutes as presented with the correction that the reference to Mr. Barnes be to staff biologist Jason Barnes, just to clarify that.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Vice Chairman Johnson and a second by Commissioner Valentine. Is the commission clear on the motion? Seeing none, and Ms. East, you're welcome to abstain.
I will be abstaining. Thank you.
All right, I'll call for the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously, 7-0, with an abstention from our new commissioner, Commissioner East. So we'll move to agenda item number 7, appeal, Mr. Stephen Frank Bennett, for possible action. Mr. Bennett is appealing revocation of his license privileges. And before we start, I'd like to have our DAG give us a brief description of what this is going to entail today.
Thank you. I'm Brian Stockton, Senior Deputy Attorney General. I just wanted to take a few minutes to explain my role and your role today and what you're doing. And I apologize if this is too simple for some of you, but I think it's important. The role you play today is reviewing the actions of the department. The department assessed 12 demerit points against Mr. Bennett based on a conviction. And the commission's role today is to produce findings of fact and conclusions of law on however you decide in that case, which side you believe. And so most of the boards I work with, what they'll do is they'll ask me to prepare the written findings of fact and conclusion of law, and then I'll share them with both the attorneys that are involved. They have a chance to come back to me and tell me I got something wrong, and then once we either work out our differences or can't work out our differences, then I send my version to the chairman, and the attorneys, if they still object, can send their objections, and then the chairman decides how to correct it, and then he signs the order. That's the final order that's subject to review by the district court under Nevada Revised Statutes 233B. So so as far as findings of fact, one of the things we talk to the commission about a lot is that there's kind of a hierarchy of courts in Nevada, and the district court is higher on the food chain than the commission. And so anything the district court has found is conclusive as far as the commission is concerned. So the fact that Mr. Bennett was convicted in the district court is just a given fact. So the commission can't, like, say he shouldn't have been convicted or the court should have decided differently, because that's the district court's decision and you can't change that. Okay? So what you do have to decide today, as I understand from talking with both the attorneys, is in the plea agreement there's some language that could be considered waiving the demerit point system and application of that system to Mr. Bennett's case. I will tell you in the past, because the district attorney handles the criminal section and the department handles the demerit points, the commissions have usually required that it be pretty clear that that was the intent, was to waive the demerit points. So obviously if we had a district court judge and his decision say no demerit points will be applied to this conviction, then that's conclusive for us as the commission. And then, so the other thing is under NAC 510.185 sub 1, the department bears the burden in this case. So what that means is if you hear the evidence and you can't decide who's right, then Mr. Bennett would prevail, because under the regulation the department has the burden to prove it's a little more likely that they're correct than that Mr. Bennett is correct. So the last thing is I'll give you all the advice you want on the law, but what I can't tell you is how to decide on the facts. That's up to you to decide. If any of you at some time feel you need some attorney-client advice, we can't go into closed session, but if we want to take a break and I can talk to you one-on-one and explain the law to you, I'm fine with doing that. It's somewhat unusual, but not unheard of. The last thing is under the open meeting law, it's called a quasi-judicial proceeding, and it's subject to the open meeting law. So I think you will have to take public comment before you actually make the decision. The problem is Mr. Bennett has a constitutional right for you to decide the case based on the facts that are presented and not based on public opinion. Okay, so I would ask if anybody does make public comment that you decide the case based on the facts presented and not based on public opinion. So with that, does anyone have any questions?
So just to be clear, Mr. Stockton, we have to take public comment? Because I believe in the past we haven't.
We haven't, but I've been told that our office has changed that, has interpreted the provisions in the open meeting law to require public comment. The problem is, and the reason you didn't was based on my advice previously, because I question the constitutionality of deciding a case based on public comment rather than what actually happened in the case. So,
Any questions for Mr. Stockton from the commission? Seeing none, I might need a little help here on how we get started.
okay, all right, so it's in the NAC, that 185, the